Good afternoon. Welcome back to the shop. Dave here. I thought I would give you an idea of what it takes to put hinges on one of the boxes. I do like putting hinge tops on the bigger boxes. In this case, I am working on a couple of nearly identical urns for a friend of mine who passed away. His wife came to me and asked if I'd make a couple of urns for her and her husband, my friend, who passed away. And I told her I'd be happy to do that. So we have the size of the columbarium, which is 11 by 11 by 11 inside dimensions. So we now know exactly what the plan should be for the boxes. And I thought it would be nice to put hinge tops on, and if she decides she wants me to put a hasp and a lock on those, I can do that. If she decides she just wants to leave them without a hasp, that's fine too. But I thought I'd give you an idea of the things that you have to have kind of in order to do the proper measurements and cutting. So it all starts with a really good, in this case, little square. And I bought a nice, it's not the real expensive engineered square, but it's a good one in that it's got this edge is flat, so when you mark, it's nice and flat. If you just go to the hardware store and buy a cheap one, you're going to get this edge is not machined very well, and under normal circumstances you really don't need that done. You need these other two straight edges to be nice and square and smooth. But this has got both edges, both ends of that little bar nice and smooth. In order to mark, we've got a nice sharp edge marking tool. I'm going to use my little miter marking gauge thingy. That's got a proper name. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but so you need that. We'll need a chisel to clean out everything. Screwdriver to put the screws in, and of course, I did go ahead and get some nice hinges for these particular boxes, and you can tell they're good by the way the hinge pin looks. This one is nice and machined, so you're not going to get a lot of movement laterally when the top is done. I'm also marking the center of the holes with a nice spring-loaded marking awl punch. That works really well. And of course, I'll be using the router to do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to routing everything out. So I'm going to move this stuff aside, and I'll show you how I mark for those hinges. It's actually pretty easy with the proper tools. So I'm going to set this stuff aside and walk around the bench, get the box ready. So I've already got the box built. I got the top cut off. I've taken and sanded the matching edges smooth. I've clearly marked what the front of the box is going to be. Believe me, if you don't mark them, you're going to do what I've done at least once in the past, and that's made it the wrong direction, put the hinges on the wrong side. So I'm working with the front in the right orientation. So I'll mark the box itself first. Again, I'm going to have it so the front is away from me. I'm going to have one of the hinges handy. These are 1-inch hinges, and I'm going to put them exactly 1.5 inches away from the edge. So I start with that pressed at 90 degrees, and I'm going to take with the flat edge against that ruler, that square, and I'm going to mark. And I'm going to make a nice scribed mark, so I'll be able to see it when I use the router. Then, rather than measure an inch using a tape or another kind of marking tool, I'm going to take the hinge and I'm going to lay it next to that. And again, with the flat edge on the hinge, I'm going to mark that. So that's the exact measurement of that hinge. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to turn that so the flat side is towards the ruler. I'm going to mark it a couple of strokes, put the hinge on, hold that up against it, mark the edge, inside edge of that. So now that I've got the outer dimensions of that hinge, I've taken my wheel gauge, measured from the edge of the hinge to the edge of the hinge, and I'll show you the exact measurement. It's from this point to here, this point to here. Now that means that this barrel portion of the hinge is going to be exposed on the back side. I've seen people, and have done in the past, I've made a measurement to the center of that pin and made that mark to kind of bury at least half that hinge inside. It's whatever your preference is. So I've got my wheel gauge, and now all I do is take that, press it against the body, and make my mark. And I make it nice and clear so that I can see it, and I'll do that on both hinges. And now I've got all three sides of material that I'm going to remove with the router. Now when you're setting up your router, and I'm using a 1/4 inch bit, you could use a 5/16, a 3/16, it doesn't really matter. I like working with that 1/4 inch. What you do is lay your hinge on there and put the tip of that router bit at the center of that hinge pin, the very center of that hinge pin. And then it's as simple as taking the router, routing out as much as you can, then grabbing a nice, really sharp chisel and using the chisel to clean up all the edges. And that hinge should fit really tightly in there, really tightly, and be the proper depth. Now, if you're too shallow, and of course you don't know if you're too shallow or too deep until you put the hinges on and then close it. If it closes properly, great, you did a good job of centering that, and it's great. If it's too shallow, you're going to have a line along the edge that's open on the back, closed on the front. You can always go back, route it, reset your router, route just a little bit more out. Suppose you could remove it with a chisel, that'd work too. If you go too deep, then what you need to do is you need to get something to raise that up out of the routed spot. So what I've done in the past, and believe me, I've had to make these kinds of adjustments, but I'll take business cards, cut small pieces, and set that business card underneath the hinge to raise that up. Sometimes you have to do on both the top piece as well as the bottom. So if it doesn't close properly, if the front of the box stays open, won't close, it's binding up back here, so you have to raise that up out of the hole or pull that top portion down, and you do that by inserting some kind of a shim in there. I use business cards, sometimes I'll use the old 3x5 recipe cards, and so it's a constant adjustment. And you only put one screw in each of the two leaves on the hinge, and then you test it. It doesn't make sense to put all 8 screws in only to find out that it doesn't work. Well, then you got to take all 8 out. So if you just put 4 in, one on each one of the leaves, test that to see if the depth is right, then that's perfect. Then the process is to drill a hole, and you got to get these things as centered as you possibly can in that small little hole. Because if you are off center at all, it's going to twist that hinge just a little bit. And if you twist the hinge on just one of the hinges, it doesn't allow that box to close, and the sides are not going to be nice and even. The front's not going to be even, 2 sides, the back's not going to be even. So that's another reason for just doing one. So once you get it to where it closes properly, then the next step is to punch, drill a hole, put the screw in, close it, make sure that that's all right. If it's off, now you can identify which of the screws caused it to be off, and that's going to be the last one you put in. Well, then now you have just one screw to take out. You got to fill that, and then you have to have a supply of nice round toothpicks, glue that in, trim it off, make it nice and smooth, and then re-drill that hole in the proper orientation. And you do that on each one of the hinges. It's one additional screw at a time until you get everything done properly. So then what you end up with is a box that looks like this. Everything lines up really nicely. It closes nice. You can hear it close. Closes just perfectly. Now this one I routed just a little bit too deep, so I ended up having to put one business card shim under each one of the hinges. But it turned out perfect, and I'm very happy with the results. So that's kind of how it works. It's a beautiful thing when it works out. It's really frustrating when it doesn't. Now, is it absolutely perfect? Well, I'd like to think it's close. It's so close that the movement of the wood, because of the difference in relative humidity from day to day, it's a live object, and the wood is going to move. The second thing is the rest of the box is going to be beautiful. These are going to get a hand applied product called Odie's oil, and then I'm going to put inside and out, and then I'm going to put a coat of Odie's wood butter, which is a wax, and they'll be done. Now these are going into a columbarium, so nobody's going to see them. Nobody's going to see them. So the fact that that you can actually feel there's that little ridge, and it's amazing how you can feel such a small difference with your fingers that is invisible to the naked eye. So it's good. It's as perfect as I can make it, and she's gonna love them. So once they're all done, I'll let you see what the finished product is. I'm going to put a solid top on that's going to be flush on all four sides, and that's due in part to the limitations of the size of the columbarium. I'm going to put a rabbet in the bottom of the box itself, and I'm going to set that bottom recessed into all four sides. That's just the easiest thing to do. It's going to look the cleanest, and I think it's going to give it a nice clean look. Plus, that doesn't have to be one solid piece. I do have enough of the wider piece of cherry in order to make a solid top for both of them. I don't think I've got enough of at least 8.5 inches wide in order to make a solid bottom. Those are going to be, they'll be cherry, but they'll be pieced. I'm also going to put some felt on the inside. So in reality, I could put plywood on the bottom, but my personal preference is to do the whole thing in cherry and have it exactly what she wanted. So that's the story. I'm going to get busy working on the other box. So you all have a blessed day, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Talk to you soon. Dave out.